Hi everyone, and welcome back to another session of Test Automation Engineer Certification. So far we have covered the first three layers of a generic test automation architecture, which are test generation, test definition, and test execution. Today we will be going through the last layer, which is the test adaptation layer. So first of all, let's try to understand that what's the function of this test adaptation layer in a test automation architecture. So this layer basically provides the required code to adapt to the test scripts, to several components, interfaces, etc. of the system under test. If we think in regards of computing, in computing an adapter can be a hardware component or a software, and its job is basically to allow two or more devices or components which are not compatible to be linked together so that the data can be transferred between them. So these adapters are sometimes built into devices. Sometimes they can be used externally. Like for example, there are adapters in mobile phones, servers, etc. And that's the role test adaptation layer plays within the test automation architecture. So we can also say that it is the interface layer to an application, a specific component, or a system. Let's take an example of a system which is stable. And now there are some business requirements which have changed, and the system has to be updated by adding new plugins that communicates with APIs. So in this situation, if we think about our test automation solution, then this layer, the test adaptation layer, is the one which will be modified. So I hope that explains the basic function of the test adaptation layer. Okay, now let's go through the syllabus. The syllabus states that it provides the tool support for controlling the test harness. So it's test harness, as we already learned in the foundation certification training as well, it's the collection of stubs or drivers, etc., and maybe other tools as well which are required to automate test execution. So test adaptation layer, it provides the tool support for controlling the test harness. And then the second one is interacting with the system under test. Okay, so again, there can be different tools which can be used to interact with the system under test. So there can be different adapters to connect to the system under test via GUI, API, services, protocols, databases, simulators, etc. Similarly, it also provides the tool support for monitoring the system under test. And the fourth one is simulating or emulating the system under test environment. So many times it's not possible to execute all the planned tests on a real or a live environment. So simulators or emulators, they replace the real environments with simulated environments so that still we can continue our testing and we have confidence while signing off before we start using the real environment. Okay, test adaptation layer also provides the following functionality. First one, mediating between the technology neutral test definitions and the specific technology requirements of the system under test and the test devices. Okay, let's split this into two different parts. First of all, let's see that what is technology neutral? What does it mean? So technology neutral, basically it means that there is a freedom to use the most suitable technology as per the needs or the usage without many dependencies. And over here the term technology neutral test definitions is used. So the test definition, which is like defining test suites or test cases, is referred as technology neutral as it can be completed without knowledge of the tool that will be used for execution. And this is something which we already mentioned in the test definition layer as well. So, and that's the reason that why we separate it from the execution. So by separating the test definition from the execution, the definition is immune from the tool selection and usage. It's not dependent on that. So let's say if another tool is used, the definition doesn't have to change. Only the execution layer will change. So this is why it's referred as technology neutral. Okay, now the second half says, and the specific technology requirements of the SUT and the test devices. Okay, so similarly, there are some specific technology requirements. Like for example, let's if you take a device and in order to connect that device securely to other remote devices, we need to follow specific procedures. We need to make some configuration changes, which is specific to that that device. So that's a specific technology requirement. Okay, so now test adaptation layer, what it's doing? It's mediating between these two. By mediating, what does it mean? That it's basically intervening. It reconciles the difference between them, which actually is the main purpose of an adapter, so that they can work all together. Okay, the second one is applying different technology specific adapters to interact with the system under test. Okay, so as we just said that we have some, there are some specific technology requirements. Similarly, there are different technology specific adapters. We can take an example of Visual Studio. So if we are using Visual Studio for our automation tests, then we have NUnit test adapters in Visual Studio. We have table adapters. So these adapters are specific to Visual Studio. So it's technology specific adapters. Similarly, for other technologies, there will be other specific adapters which will be used to interact with the system under test. And the last one is distributing the test execution across multiple test devices or test interfaces, or executing tests locally. Okay, so this means that this adaptation layer, it provides the functionality where we can use the same test, we can distribute it across different browsers. Like many times we can use the same set of test cases in different browsers and different devices, different operating systems, etc. as well. So if we, instead of writing different test cases, we can utilize the same test suite, and we can run it across different devices. Maybe like different, if we are testing mobiles, then maybe different mobile devices with different operating systems. Same is with the web browsers, etc. as well. So test adaptation layer provides the functionality of distributing the test execution either across multiple devices or executing tests locally as well, because many times we can just like run the test on our local environment as well. So this is basically the entire test adaptation layer functionality in a test automation architecture. So I hope that this is clear. And with this, we have come to the end of test adaptation layer. So in our next session, we will go through the remaining sections of the test automation architecture. So till then, take care of yourself. I'll see you next time. Bye.